Hey everybody, what's going on? My name is Carter Hall, and with me today I have Annabel Reyes-Clark with me, and she does a lot of amazing things in the media CrossFit space and much more. And here to talk about it, Annabelle, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I've seen you just around like CrossFit 806. I've seen you around just doing a lot of amazing things, and like I always find it fascinating because I'm a media communications person too. Like I was my degree in college, so I'm like, this is pretty cool. Like
Yeah.
I've had a lot of CrossFit athletes on, but never like a true like media CrossFit person on. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I gotta ask if he's down to do it. So
Yeah.
thank you for coming on.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So like, were you always interested? Like, how'd you get into CrossFit first of all? Like, were you like, was have you been in it for a while? Have you always done CrossFit, or what was that
Um,
like?
no, so like I was actually honestly like one of those CrossFit like skeptics, very skeptical of it. I was like, that doesn't look, I was pretty much like a hater. I was like, yeah, because I did like Olympic lifting, body, heavy lifting and stuff like that. Um, So I gave it a try in Lubbock when I moved to Lubbock. I was going to school and I tried out a CrossFit class. I was like, you know what, this is actually pretty fun. Um, but when I moved back to Amarillo, I actually lived like literally not even like a mile away from our gym, CrossFit 806. So I'd just drive by it all the time. This was back in like 2019. And I'm like, you know what? Let me give it a try. Let me sign up. So I like signed up for like the free intro, whatever, with
Mhm.
Kyle and immediately just kinda, like, fell in love with the gym, the community, with Kyle, and all the staff at the time, and I just started working out with them and, just felt like this is what I needed at that time in my life, and, um, and I was talking to Kyle in conversation, I was like, "Hey, like, I take pictures, so, like, if you ever want somebody to take pictures of your gym, I'd be more than happy to help." He's like, "Yeah, for sure, like, I think I might take you up on that." So fast
Pretty cool.
forward today, yeah, this is where now I like solely take it for his gym.
That's pretty cool. So is this like you signed up for, like you said, the intro, and then just from there, just you're like you went on a whim and just like, hey, I do this, and he was all up for it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I never knew
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, and at the time, honestly, it was like a hobby.
Oh,
Like,
really?
it wasn't I mean, it still is a hobby, but at the time, it was just like, "Oh, I kinda dabble in it, I kinda do it a little bit on
Mhm.
my own with my daughter, whatever." It was yeah, I mean, I'm a whole lot better since 29 but yeah.
So were you like, of course, I from from I can't speak. That's what I can't do. Just from personal experience, like I was intimidated when I first went into my first CrossFit gym. But like, were you at all, or were you like, hey, that's where I need to be? Like, were you like, what were your first feelings like of walking into the gym?
So yeah, at first I was definitely intimidated, but I think as soon as like I did my foundation class, honestly, we start out with the foundations class and I had a great instructor. Her name was Alyssa. She's not there anymore, but she just made me feel like so comfortable. Like she just talked to me at a level like was just like we connected and I felt immediately comfortable from there and passed on to like my first CrossFit class. It just continued on with that staff there at CrossFit 806. Um, and this is something that I always preach about this gym specifically is that they're just so welcoming and they'll meet you at whatever level that you're at. And I was definitely like super beginner, had no knowledge of like I didn't even know what a snatch was to be honest, because that's not what you work on, as
Yeah.
bodybuilding. So no, I felt really comfortable, like almost immediately.
Oh, nice. So
Yeah.
like you said, just like coming in and having that camaraderie. Oh, I can't speak.
Mhm.
Camaraderie. There you go. There's that word. And just coming in and like you said, just having that one on one with somebody. And like you
Mhm.
said, there's times where like I had to just have like I didn't know either. Just I'm the same way as you. Like when I first started, like in 2018, 19 fully, and I was like, what's a clean and jerk? What's this?
Yeah.
Like what? Like it's all
Yeah.
foreign language to me. Might as well be speaking Greek or something because I didn't know
Yeah.
anything. And then it just took like that one person to like I feel like a doofus or a stooge. Like for me, I'm like, oh, I kind of like tap somebody like, what does this mean? Like, what's this going on? Like, what is this? And
Yeah.
then like, even though I went to foundations and from because I started at Tornado Alley and
Okay, yeah.
so I was there for a little while and then 20 like Memorial Day ish of 2023. I started at 806, CrossFit 806, and I was like, just from there, I was like, because I took a year off ish, and I gained a lot of weight. So I was like, I need to get back into CrossFit. So I finally got back in and just having that relearning experience. I'm like,
Mhm.
same thing again. Like it's I don't recommend that at all. It's like like because I felt the same way like I did when I was 19, 20 years old back at the time. Like, what does this mean?
Yeah,
So it's just
starting over.
but again though, it's like you said, just having that one person there just to have like, oh yeah, this is what this is. Oh yeah. Just from there to like
Mhm.
you pick up the pieces again. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely, it does.
He said you mentioned how you like you did foundations and started working out and you talked to Kyle about doing like photography and stuff like that. So was it like did that come pretty natural? Like you said it was a hobby, so that pretty natural, like did it make you feel comfortable more comfortable, so to speak, in the gym, like doing like photos and stuff like that? That seem did it make you feel like more of your element, so to speak, when you first started?
No, no, because because I got to know like CrossFit a little bit better, by actually attending and being a part of it and like being way more involved, I got to learn the movements. So I think with like this is just with sports photography in general, and you got to know the sport that you're shooting, so you know the moment that you want to catch. So like baseball, like it could be like the ball hitting the bat, like that contact, like that's like a shot, the diving in the air. Football, same thing. So like CrossFit, same and then the movements, like when you do bar muscle ups, just anything, like I got really familiar with just being a part of the gym. And so once I started taking photos, like all of that like just kind of came together.
And that's a big thing. I was gonna say that to you, but I didn't interrupt you. But I was like, that's a big thing too that most people don't really realize too. Is like about sports photography or sports media in general. If you're gonna like video or photo something, it's like capturing, like you said, the right thing.
Hmm.
Because you don't want to be like, yeah, it's cool to get someone dribbling a ball down a basketball court, but it's like you also want to
Yeah.
get that cool accent sort of like someone dunking the ball or getting a really cool 3 pointer, doing something like that's really eye catching, so to speak. So it's like once you know that the hay's in the barn, so to speak, and you really learn like knowing your craft and know what's going on and like, hey, this is what's going on, and like just go out there and have fun. That's the best way to describe it. It's like there's been times where I was in college, excuse me, where I was in college and just like taking photos for games and stuff like that, and like I didn't know what I was doing to be honest, and just
Yeah.
taking over time. Like I know sports, but it's like trying to intertwine the two. I'm like,
Yeah.
as a fan, this is but the best thing over time, like creating a plan and then like trying to execute that plan. But for
Mhm.
me, it's like sometimes it's even though it's like, okay, like what's cool? Okay, Carter, just be a fan. What do you want to see? What do fans want to see? And just go
Mhm.
from there. That's the way that I describe it. But everybody's going to be different, I believe. I think I could be wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. No, just yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think you hit it.
Yeah. So how long did you go from? What'd you say? How long did I cannot speak today? I'm so sorry. So how long
Okay.
did it go for you? Go from just working out to working out and doing photos? Like, what'd you say it was like within a couple of days or a couple of months? Like, how long did it go for you?
So I joined in like March 2019. I probably started taking photos for the gym like in April or May.
Oh,
Like,
nice.
yeah, almost like within the month.
Oh, sweet. So was it
Mhm.
a so was it a nice transition for you? Like, were you always doing like sports media to begin with, or was this more like I call it sports media, but like you probably do like you're doing much more, but was it a quick transition from you to like going from like were you always doing let me rephrase this question. Were you always doing like sports photography beforehand, or was this like your introduction into sports photography?
No, so I have a younger brother. He's actually your age
Oh, nice.
now, but back in high school when he played, he was like really big into sports. He was a big he was like a football star at the time, baseball, that one
Mhm.
that jock. My parents had happened to buy a Canon camera, and this was like the first time we had like something like that, and I was very
Nice.
intrigued immediately. And so at that same time, I was like, you know what? Let me learn how to play with this, like, let me learn how to use I'm sorry, let me learn how to use this, so, kinda picked it up, did
Yeah.
the research, I read the manual like a nerd and learned what everything meant, and I'd just go out there to his games, I was one of his biggest fans, like, I freaking loved watching my little brother play, so, like, I just practiced with him, and I obviously, just from watching him play, I understood baseball, I understood football, powerlifting, stuff like that. So, like, I would just practice with him, and he'd even ask me, like, his senior year, he'd ask me, him and his buddies asked me to take their senior photos,
Oh,
sports
nice.
photos, stuff like that. So, he introduced me to other people, and that's kinda really where it started, where I learned, that I really love it's like an adrenaline rush of, like, you gotta be quick, you gotta keep, like you gotta, um, know what's about to happen before it even happens, just and be anticipating, waiting for the next move, and so, like, I really like that, not knowing if it was gonna happen or what was gonna happen
Mhm.
next, so, and that just kinda continued on.
That's pretty cool to hear that, cause like, it's pretty like, just like you said, just going from, getting a Canon camera to, like, people, like, asking you, like, "Hey, like, yo, this is pretty cool. Can you, like, take photos for me?" Like, that's pretty cool, like, seeing your pictures, like, that must but you said it right, though, it's really like an adrenaline rush. It feels like
Mm,
that's pretty cool the way you describe that too, cause it's like you don't really don't know what that experience is like until you've done it, and
mhm,
it's pretty cool how, like, you have a pretty cool story, like, a pretty cool introduction into it, you know? That's pretty cool to hear that.
yeah.
So, like, did you go from, like, doing, like, senior portraits right into weightlifting and sports and stuff like that? So, was it around the same time?
That was around the same time, like, I learned how to do portraits, like family
Mhm.
portraits, senior portraits, stuff like that. I started doing a lot of graduation stuff. Um, but, it's just not the same as, like, the
Yeah.
sports
Yes.
photography part of it. There's a lot
I
more
understand.
action. Yeah, so I tend to gravitate towards that area, versus, like, just portraits, so,
Yeah. I get it. I totally understand too, that you wanna be where the action's at, so
yeah.
that's pretty cool to be, like, being where, like, learning one thing and going to another, it's pretty cool. It's like
Yeah,
me being a former athlete, playing football and wrestling and on the wrestling team and stuff like that, just I'm doing CrossFit now, it's oh, like, that having that athletic background and going into it now, it's like, I wanna, like, being a media person and also, like,
yeah,
being a former athlete, it's like,
mhm,
"Oh, this is so cool, like, this is the route I wanna be," like, like I said, intertwine the 2, it's like, that adrenaline rush comes back I thought I left in high
yeah,
school, you know? So that's pretty cool.
yeah,
That's always, like,
yeah.
a cool thing to have.
It is, it really is.
Yeah, so, how long I forgot what I was gonna say. I said a brain fart. I'm so sorry.
You're okay.
So, when did you so you pretty early on, you realized this was the field for you and, like, you wanted to really, like, go into it, like, full speed, right? Or full send, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That's pretty
just like yeah, just, once I started taking photos of my younger brother, it was kinda like love at first sight, I guess, or feel, I don't know how you describe that, and I
yeah,
knew, that was what I wanted to do, and, like I said, I dabbled in portraits and, like, nature is pretty awesome too,
yeah,
um, but I don't know, there's just something about sports.
for sure. So, speaking of sports and stuff like that, like, do you have, like, a favorite, like, sports or CrossFit, like, story from, like, doing media, or is there anything like that? How long have you been so you started, like, in 2019, like, doing CrossFit and stuff like that, so do you like, how long like you said, you've been working with Kyle, doing all the amazing stuff with him, so, like, do you have, like, a favorite, like, memory or like, a comp story, a competition story of doing media that you've done? Like, "This is so cool, like, I want people, like, to remember this," or something like that?
I think that I would say, like, most recently, I got to go to the BCS Classic. I think that was such a huge and big experience for me. Like, it was kind of like a groundbreaking experience for me in my career.
Yeah.
Because I've been kind of shying away, like, oh, I do this, I can do this. Um, but when I got to go, it was just like, oh, there's people that, like, this is what they do, and
Mhm,
they are amazing at it, and so I remember just, like, looking up, and I'm looking at all these media this crew, and I'm like, they're literally in their element right now, like, they're focused, they're tuned in to their shots and stuff, um, so I thought I don't know, for me, like, that was really cool, and, like, just speaking with them and whatever they had to tell me, like,
mhm.
their tips, I guess,
Yeah,
to, like, slow down and, like, try to get that shot, and I was like, "You know what? That's kinda like what I do." I would try to, like, I don't know, just slow down time in my head and, like, kinda just see things for what they are at that moment, so that was a moment for me there, and it was just really cool to see. It was just really cool to see, like, others in that we were, like, in the
yeah,
same, like, frequency, like, oh, I was like, "Oh, this is really cool. We're all here
yeah,
focused on this," so
yeah. That's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to hear that, like, you said just being your element and, like, you're like, you said to be, like, doing senior portraits, like you said, to now, you're actually working with these people, you're
yeah,
doing, like, this, like, I'm pretty sure, like, Rich Froning and all those, like, Mayhem guys were there. To go from, like, senior portraits to a four-time, like, CrossFit Games champion,
yeah.
that must be kinda, like, mind-boggling for you, I bet sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, just to be like for me, like, everybody follows the CrossFit Games and all that stuff, but I don't know, or I'm sure not a lot of people, maybe you do since you're in media, but like think about like, okay, but who's recording this? Who's shooting
Oh, yeah.
these shots? Who's
Oh,
like
yeah.
speaking about it? All these kind of things. Like I think about that, like the back behind the scenes.
Mhm.
So like I follow a lot of photographers that took photos about, the CrossFit Games this year, and so, like, they were there at the BC like, I got to work with them, so I'm like, "Okay,
That's
this is
so
super
cool.
cool." Like, I was, like, like, fangirling
Mhm.
over photographers that were
Oh,
I'm like, "This is so cool."
I fangirl a lot too, like, when I first met Rich and doing all the media stuff, like, I've lost countless times, like like, I fangirled, but yeah, it's an experience for sure.
It is, it really is.
Yeah, like, I remember like, I'm a nerd for, like, media, I say that the most, like I don't know how to say it, if there's a cool way to say it, but, like, when it comes to, like, media, like you said, being behind the scenes is something that's pretty cool, and to, like you said, just to document something like, "Yo,
Mhm.
this is pretty cool," like, this is something that probably next to nobody sees other than the actual team or
Yeah.
who's preparing, like, I've always, like, been like, ever since I was a young kid, like, I've always been, like I always loved I think it started whenever I started watching movies when I was a little kid, like, no, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, like, I remember watching movies when I was always like, I always wanted to watch the behind the scenes stuff, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
like, how is this put together? Like and then, this is pretty cool how, like, one scene was put together, like, it takes so many
Yeah.
different shots and, like, "Oh, wait, this is a career? What? This is so cool." Like, other people
Mhm.
think like this too, like, and then growing up and like, "Oh, this is pretty cool to, like, actually do sports with it." Like, I remember when Rich Froning and some of the Mayhem guys came last year for was it last year? 2023, I think, for
Yeah.
the Feed, Clothe, Love event,
Mhm.
and, I remember seeing them. That's my first time seeing them in person, and I don't know if I told this story on the podcast, but I'll say this super quick. That's not my podcast, I know you're the guest, but,
No.
I was just saying, like, I may have told this story, I don't know, but, I was like so I wanted to make a video, like a little vlog video for myself, my YouTube channel, and because that was my first time going to that event, excuse me, and my brother and his girlfriend were, like, judging it, so I was like, "Cool, they're doing something with what they love with CrossFit, why not do what I love and create a video, could do media stuff with it," you know? Even though
Yeah.
there's, like, professionals like you doing covering it, I'm just
Yeah.
out there being a stooge, like, with a camera, like, "Oh, look at what I'm doing," but that's beside the
Yeah.
point.
Me too.
So,
That's
I remember parking and, like, recording and going in, and I remember walking up to these steps and, like, where am I going? This is a parking garage. Where do I need to go as a
yeah.
spectator fan? Where do I need to
Yeah.
go? Because there's no way I'm a true media person. So I remember walking up the stairs and there's a person like goes, "Hey, where are you going?" I'm like, "I'm just trying to watch the event." And like, "Hey, go up that flight of stairs right there and open that door. You should be good." I'm like, "Okay, cool, thanks, man." And as I'm walking away, in CrossFit. you may understand this, Annabelle, but other people may not, like, when they do team competitions, they have those, like, placards or, like, plaques that have their team name.
Uh-huh, yeah.
So I have to go find a picture of it somewhere and show it for on the podcast, but, uh, so I'm like, "Okay, cool, thanks, man." As I'm turning away, I see, uh, one of those team names on the, like, plaques on the ground. It said
Mhm.
Mayhem. I'm like, "Oh, great." I just talked to Mayhem watching people warm up. I'm like, "I'm about to kick out of here 30 seconds into this competition." So so I turn the corner and I walk out the store and I see that parking garage, he did it last year, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Mhm.
So they're all rigs right there, and I'm like, "Oh, man, like, this is pretty cool." I see, Jaren
Yeah.
Alvarado there. I see Jaren when I walk out, I'm like and he goes, "Oh, hey, Carter, how's it going?" Mind you, I just started CrossFit at CrossFit 806.
Okay.
So I walk in, I see Jaren, like, "Hey, what's up, Jaren?" And I walk up to him like, "How's it going? Blah, blah, blah." He's like, "Oh, good." Not knowing he's competing in the competition. So I'm
Mhm.
like, "Okay," and I turn I'm like he and I talk for like 2 seconds. I turn around, as I'm turning around, I see Rich running around. I'm like
Yeah.
he gets, like, right next to me. I'm like, I do not need to be here. I have too much access right now. I need to go blend in somewhere else."
That's funny.
I made probably a Mayhem athlete mad, and I almost bumped into Rich Froning. I do not need to be here right now. And I, like,
Oh my
cowardly
gosh.
backed up away, like, "Okay, I
Yeah,
need to leave."
kinda
So
make your way out.
that was my first CrossFit media experience, so to speak, and I say that loosely because
Yeah.
there's people out there who do it way better like you guys. I'm like, "There's no way I need to be here doing this."
No, don't say that at all, like, you gotta start somewhere, like, and that's
Yeah.
something that I've learned, and I constantly battle, with, what is it called? Imposter syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a constant battle, so and it's just to me, it's comforting to hear, like, even people that I think that are, like, amazing and great, they're like, "Oh, yeah, I constantly get imposter syndrome," like, "Oh my gosh," like, that makes me feel better because
Mhm.
I guess this is just
Yeah.
like a theme, like,
Mhm.
so I feel like I'm still I speak just like you, like, "Oh, they're just like, they're not good," like, or, "I can be better, I can do" like, there's people out there that do it, like, they're awesome
Mhm.
at it, but, like, you just gotta do
Mhm.
it. You just gotta do it and have
Sure.
confidence in yourself, so
For
you're
sure,
doing that.
that's a yeah, that's a great thing to say too, is like, imposter syndrome is a big thing too, because 'cause I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, man," like, there's been times I get down, I'm like, "Oh, man, that'd be cool to do that, but there's no way I could do that." But there's been times too, I'm like on the other hand,
Yeah.
in the same vein, I'm like, "Oh, I gotta do that." I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it's like, I don't know, like, those 2 feelings of wanting to do it, but not thinking you're good enough go hand in hand quite a bit. I'm like, the fact that other people go through it too, I'm like, "I thought I was the only one," you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
Absolutely.
kinda speaking of that stuff too, like, where do you think, like, CrossFit media, like, in your perspective, because 'cause you've done this for a few years now, and you're doing amazing work too, because there's been times where I've seen you around the gym, like, snapping photos and doing a bunch of cool stuff, and I've seen all the stuff that you made. I'm like, "This is so cool." Like, all the stuff that gets posted on the Instagram and stuff like that. I'm like, "This is so cool." Like, I literally, like I sit there, watch it, like, 2 or 3 times over. I'm like, "Man, I really need to step my stuff up because like, there's no way, like, I can be right there." But at the same time, like, I maybe could, I don't know, but, like, what do you think, like, the CrossFit media is trending to? Like, or where would you like to where would you like to see it trend to, if that makes sense?
What would I like to see it
Like
turn?
where would you like to see, like, the CrossFit media, like? Because like, for me, I watch the Buttery Bros a lot and, like, all those guys, and I'm like, "This is pretty cool." Like, do you think that's going in the right direction as far as, like, content? Like, as far as, like, CrossFit content, where do you think it's going? Is it going, like, in a good way, do you think? Is it, like, trading in a good way, if that makes sense?
I don't know, like, as for myself, I'm still figuring that out, like, I'm constantly just trying to figure out what I'm gonna do. Like I said, like, I battle with imposter syndrome really bad, so sometimes I'm like, "Oh, yeah, like, this is great, like, I can do this, I can make it a full-time gig, and this is just what I do." Other times I'm like, I don't know if this is even right. Like, is this the right way to do it? It's like, so I don't know if it is, but I'm working on that and hopefully I can in the near future say like, that it is going in the right direction.
Well, it's
So
pretty cool to just to watch your stuff, it's pretty cool. It's like pretty inspiring to watch, so I think you're doing it right, so but that's just me saying that, so but, um, I just wanna ask, like, is there anybody, like not so much in if it's in CrossFit, cool, but is there anybody, like, content-wise that you see, like, in the media space or, like or sports space, I'm like, "Oh, this is pretty cool," like, I enjoy watching these people and you gain inspiration from them or because for example, when I started this podcast, and it's still true today, the 2 people that, like, I watched that made me wanna start this podcast were Joe Rogan, obviously, and Pat McAfee. Those 2
Mhm.
were, like, the 2 like, I don't know if you know who those are, but those
Yeah.
2 guys were, like, my inspiration, and I'm like, "Oh, this is pretty cool. This is why I wanna make content and eventually, hopefully, start a business doing this." Is there anybody like you who, like, when you go to gain inspiration from?
Yeah, so I actually got to meet him at BCS. His name is Enrique.
Oh,
I
yeah.
can't think of his Instagram handle right now, but, like, I love his photos, they're just, like, the style that I like, and, he got to do the CrossFit Games,
Oh, yeah.
and for me, what really, like, struck a chord was, like, he's Hispanic, very
Oh,
much
yeah.
Spanish speaking, so, like, I f I feel like coming from a very Hispanic household, and this just might be me. Our parents crossed and, for a better life came to the US for a better life, worked really hard for us to get like a college education. And so they really wanted to see me be like in a higher education, like a doctor, engineer, or something like that. And so like photography wasn't a career choice growing up. So I feel like you really didn't see a lot of Hispanic photographers at the time. I think for the same reason, but to see him and how successful he is in his career, I think it's super inspiring. Like it doesn't matter. And so
Yeah.
like I feel like I can connect and relate to him. Like, okay, cool. Like we can do this.
Yeah.
So
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool to hear that.
yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty neat because, like you said, inspiration come from anywhere, and that's pretty cool to hear. Like, I like to hear, like, how other people get inspiration because I think it's inspiring to hear that. Like, I can gain inspiration from something, but someone can gain inspiration from anywhere else, and that's cool to hear that too. I think it's really neat, I think, in the long run because like, people can be or people want to achieve to be better for something, and just hearing that, I'm like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." So, thank you for sharing that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, uh, before you head on out of here, because I don't wanna keep you too long, but, um, is there anybody, like, if there's anybody out there watching this or listening to this who, like, is thinking about getting into media or sports media and stuff like that, or CrossFit even, anything, um, I don't wanna put you on the spot, but, um, advice you would wanna give to them possibly?
Yeah, like absolutely. So when it comes to like sport media, my biggest advice is to like learn the sport. So
Mm,
that way you're able to like see ahead, like or know what's about to happen. That not background knowledge really helps.
yeah,
And then also just like once you learn how to slow down and don't get too like crazy, like, oh, I gotta get this, I gotta get that. Like there's just so many moving parts and just you'll get there. You'll eventually like get all the shots, but like just try to focus on one thing and try to get that shot. And then just more importantly, just do it. Just try
yeah,
it. If you were thinking about trying it or wanting to do it, just go and do it. Go to like a public sporting event or whatever, and just play around with the camera and try to get the shots. And um, I don't know. I think that's just the best way to like start. Is just go in and do it and keep going. So
most definitely. That's great advice to give, I think, personally in this field, because like you said, just to really be slow with it, like be where your feet are, so to speak, just like, okay, you're here, just enjoy it, have fun with it, but you're doing
yeah,
what you love, just don't take it for granted kind of thing. So it's really
yeah.
cool to hear that advice too. So, Annabelle, I can't thank you enough for coming on. And it feels like we could talk on and on, but thank you again. And thank you to everybody watching this. And hope you have a great weekend, guys. And I can't thank you enough. And Annabelle, we'll see you later. Thank you.
Thank you.
See ya.